Okay, tonight we're talking about episode number 3 of Loki. And what's the name of it? Was it named after the planet Lament or whatever? Was that the name of it? I don't remember.
Oh gosh, I got it up right now.
I should have.
Yeah, Lamentus.
Okay.
Lamentus.
So which is the planet that's exploding.
I don't even look at that. The names of like third episode.
Yeah. Sarah,
I think Lamentus is actually the planet that was about to crash into the moon. They're on the moon of Lamentus, right?
Yeah, and there's also some comic. That's back in the. There's a couple comic book stories that have it that are a little bit newer, right. I believe.
Yes. I think it's part of that whole Annihilation thing.
It is Annihilation Conquest. I think that's the one.
Right.
So, Sarah, what did you think about the overall? What did you think about it?
I liked it as per usual. I'm a big fan of this Loki series so far. It has not disappointed me in any aspect. So far, some of the things are a little bit slow, but what I liked most about this one, it really answered some of the questions that we had last time in our last episode that we filmed, and gave us a little more insight to this female Loki Enchantress character named Sylvie. And she talked a little bit more about herself. So we're able to see a little bit more of her history. She was adopted. She and Loki kind of made an almost, I'm going to call it a romantic connection at this point, because they both looked a little fluttery at each other while they were sitting at the table. I will say that. So that was a fun interaction to see. One of the things, I'm just going to hijack things and jump on right now because I made notes. Okay, so
I didn't.
You did. I did, because this one told me some things that we talked about in our last episode. So the TVA, they're all variants. They're not copies. They're not doubles. They weren't created by anybody. They were variants pulled out, thrown in.
At least that's what
she says. Yeah.
Female Loki thinks, right? But like she might not know the whole story.
But then if that one soldier that was in Utopia, that actress that was in Utopia, if she was a dupe or a double or a copy of something, then how does she have all those memories? How is she so comfortable in that, enchanted, memory of the thing? So
I don't know.
That sold it for me. Like, that made more sense. Sure. And it made more sense of why she was so anti-TVA, called them fascists, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Sure.
I think there's more to come on that. I don't know what it is, but it just seems
she's definitely holding back. And she totally blew up the timeline so that way she could go in and wipe them out, just like we said, like we predicted in our last. So I'm super pumped. So I get pumped. So you just got to hang in there now. So
very good, very good.
Totally was a wonderfully military tactic move. Everybody was out trying to fix the mess that she blew up. So she was able to get in there and she got to the door. And then what does Loki do? Like he always does, he gets in there and he screws up whoever's plan it is, throws in his Loki wrench, and then, threw them to a place that we don't know right now how they're going to get off that moon. No idea. And at the end, they were just kind of like, well, shit, what's going to happen now?
Right.
So what's the plan?
There's a town near here. And can you shut up? Just because I have to work with you doesn't mean I want to hear your voice.
What did you think of it overall? This episode in particular, Alan?
This episode in particular. I mean, I think that Sarah pretty much nailed it. That we're getting answers to questions finally. I think we needed to by this point, or we would have had people beginning to get disinterested. I think that I'm fascinated by what they're doing with the Enchantress character because she's like a mishmash of a whole bunch of Marvel Comics ideas, and they do that all the time in the cinematic universe, so that's not surprising. But I always enjoy I usually enjoy how they mash up those characters. And so that's neat. Let's see. I thought that the interaction between the two of them was absolutely fascinating. If they have a romantic thing, does that mean that he's just loving himself?
Well,
I'm not really sure how all that stuff
Yeah, I
works.
That
didn't
would
pick up
be-
on a romantic thing.
really, I did. I got it because they were asking
There
about
was a very clear
relationships.
moonlighting vibe there.
Yeah, but like,
Really?
I don't think she's a Loki. I don't think she is a multiverse
yeah.
wave of Loki. There's no
Then
way.
there's some
Sure.
other strange reveal, and there's got to be something to explain that. Then
Well, she talked about how she was adopted. She always knew she was adopted.
right?
She also said that she picked out her own name. So she had no name. She decided that she's Sylvie. So whether they called her something else, I don't know. And then somebody else started calling her Loki. And so she didn't claim the Loki name. That other people were calling her Loki, probably from the TVA. So maybe that's where that originated. But she was adopted. She always knew. She couldn't remember her parents or what her life was before there was like glimmers. And she taught herself magic. So, I mean, we know all those things.
Well, and she could be connected to him or to Loki in general, not to him as a variant, but one of the other, whether it be old, they're probably, if you look in the thing, it looks like there's old Loki in one of the stills. So, for lack of a better name, older Loki, or some type of other variant, where she's somehow connected.
Right.
Because their stories matched up, but they didn't completely match up.
So what I think would be wild and super cool is so Loki, frost giant, abandoned baby. Odin adopts him. What happens if she is Odin tossed baby? Don't want another girl. The first girl was terrible. I'm going to toss this one out. Maybe somebody else snatched her up. Maybe the frost giant snatched her up and she learned, because frost giants don't have magic so much as I guess they do with the thingy. They stabbed them with the thing and then they went all berserker. Would that be considered magic? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they
I know what you're
certainly
talking
have
about.
certain powers. I think they do have certain magic powers.
But like that, maybe that's more of like spell or concoction versus like manifesting magic.
Right.
Because she said her mom did magic tricks.
Yeah. So she was born of magic, but wasn't raised around magic because she had to teach herself magic.
I think there's something to her calling him a magician. I think there's something in the backstory because they did that a couple of times in sort of the way they highlighted it. I thought that episode for me, I liked it, but it was a little slow. I thought it could have I liked the interaction between them, to your point, Alan. I think she's great. She's sort of instantly likable, which they've done a lot, and they haven't done it with everybody, but with a lot of their the people that they've chosen for these roles, the casting, they've done a really good job with that. Or a lot of the characters, they've just come through strong, and she definitely does. But I just thought it was it kind of was slow a little bit here and there. I almost felt like it needed a couple of cutaways to Mobius or something.
Yes.
I thought it would have had a better pace but overall, I did think it was good. And so far, this is by far, this is my favorite of the three that have come out. Not that I disliked the others, but this.
Right. I watched episode 2 and 3 with the family. I guess I watched episode 1 with the family too, but my mother-in-law kept falling asleep during it. And watching these with people who are not Marvel aficionados,
right,
is super interesting because I can kind of sense when they are baffled by what's happening. And I think Marvel's got a little bit of a problem with all the cross continuity stuff in that, and I worried about this when they first said they were going to make the cinematic universe continuity heavy. I think now that it's been around as long as it has, getting people to watch new stuff when they don't understand any of the backstory. Seems like it's a lot more difficult at this point than it had been. Now, that having been said, I'm having a blast with it because I'm a continuity nerd and I love it. But I do worry that they're going to start losing people.
Right. The very reason we like it is the reason that it's turning off certain people. It's kind of,
Right. Exactly.
you know, I've come into certain like season 3 of Ozark or something like that, and you're like, I can tell this is a good show, but I can tell I can't start here. I've got to go back.
Right.
That's a good point. I hadn't actually thought about that. I was enjoying it.
Yeah, I don't find the series to be that like that heavily where you need all that background, that historical knowledge, because like my mom, she doesn't know anything about that. My dad isn't much of a Marvel connoisseur, but he can watch, you know, the show and enjoy the action, enjoy the character development. But I would say I do not think that this episode was slow. It was slow in terms of action. So I got you. It started off quick, we were all amped up, wanted to see him fight. And then there was some good hand-to-hand scenes. There was great there, but we needed an episode to develop Sylvie, the Enchantress. We needed an episode to see, and what this episode did great, I think, is to see the character differences between a Loki, the Loki character, and the Enchantress, the Sylvie character. So you can see that she is very mission oriented. She doesn't mess around. She's getting it done. You know, she's focused, whereas Loki has never been focused. He is, you know, gets drunk. He, you know, forgets that he's supposed to be in character and costume, and he basically sings her a love song. So he is enchanted by the Enchantress, we'll say. But I enjoyed that because now I like her. I understand her better. I understand her motives. Whereas before she was like this dark figure and we weren't sure how messed up the TVA was and, you know, that kind of thing. And now from her perspective, and what I suspected from the beginning is that the TVA is very self-serving, they're the bad guys as opposed to, you know, everybody else. And now they're kidnapping all these variants, wiping their memories, making them work for them, giving them numbers. They don't even know names. What is that?
You still
When she sings, she sings, come home. When she sings, she sings, come home. Men tranar danser, det fossen danser. Han svänger och säger kom igen. Men tranar danser, det fossen danser. When she sings, she sings, come home. When she sings, she sings, come home. When she sings, she sings, come home. When she sings, she sings, come home.
I'm sorry. Have you guys already discussed the theory that the timekeepers are Lokis?
No.
That one's been going around the internet a bit.
Oh, really? Then why are they killing all the other Lokis?
I don't know. That's the big question, you know, like and who knows if it's right? Like all of the internet theories about WandaVision were complete bunk, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I think that the thought is that part of the reason we haven't seen the timekeepers is because there's some gotcha there, and the obvious gotcha would be that they are the Lokis that we're following right now in the future. You know, their future selves are the timekeepers.
Okay. Well, the one looks like Kang. We've been talking about that one.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. See, I have a general theory about it, why they've been targeting the Loki.
Oh, tell me.
Because the Enchantress is very Asgardian, right? And she is not a constant within the multiverse. So maybe she's only in one timeline for all we know, right? So if Loki's a constant within the multiverse, they know that this figure is of Asgardian origin, right? So they know that. They know that it's magical. Okay, Asgardian magical. There's only a few of those. So they're going to target the most likely suspect that is constantly getting in the mix. So that would be Loki. Loki, Asgardian magic, and obviously not the mom, because they know the mom dies at least in one timeline. So maybe that's why they were referring to her as the Loki, because they're assuming that that this Asgardian magic person, that maybe the guy at the end doesn't know, you know, who exactly it is that messes up everything. Maybe, you know, maybe they figured process elimination, it's got to be Loki, you know?
Right.
My general uninformed theory because I didn't read all of the comic books either.
Well, they don't
Yeah,
all
sure.
go by the comics, and it's often a mismatch. You know, a mismatch. It's actually like a mashup, kind of like you were talking about the Enchantress character. So it could be part of it. I definitely think Kang's gonna have something to do with it. Wouldn't surprise me if they're not real, if it's some type of a
Right.
a myth or a facade that's put up and that somebody else is behind it, whether it be Kang or
Sure.
you know. And it'd be interesting to see what happens when Mobius finds out that he's a variant, or because I'm sure that's one of the the things that Loki's going to tell him.
Maybe he's a champion jet skier. We don't know.
Well, he was probably.
I'm pretty sure he'll end up being. Oh, sorry. I'm pretty sure he will end up being a variant and having multiple copies of him because that's the way it works in the comic. And I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Anything else that stuck out?
She did ask.
Oh, good.
Sorry. No, she was when she was talking. Sylvie was talking about herself, and when they were walking along right after they got zapped to the moon before the planet was coming. She asked, "That's not who I am." She said, "That's not who I am anymore." When he called her Loki. So that was interesting, and that kind of debunks my theory that she's never Loki. So she did say, "That's not who I am anymore." So she did recognize the name, maybe prior, and she made sure to say that. And then she asked, "What makes a Loki?" And then she made it a point to say, "I'm not you." So if she was a Loki, at some point, wouldn't she recognize herself in him? But again, if we go back to the TVA, when they were showing all the Lokis, they always referred to as him. They only showed he Lokis. So I don't know.
Well, that's probably just for to make it clear to the visual audience, because Loki in the comic and in the mythology has always been gender fluid, Right. So there's a Lady Loki version in the comics and has been for years, and he just switches to the girl version whenever he feels like it. And going back to the myths, Loki, one of my favorite Old Norse myths is where Loki turns into a horse and has sex with a frost giant's horse and gives birth to the bear that eventually becomes Odin's.
Because
right.
You and Chip are talking about this before you come on because he said
oh no, I didn't know Chip had already told you about this. That's hilarious.
About that, yes. That's been
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah, he got pregnant.
So now we're
babies.
Right. Yes.
Yes. They have said that episodes 4 and 5 are a big twist. So the 2 coming up, it really it changes it. And Kevin Feige has said that that this show in particular will affect the coming MCU, and the other 2 really a little bit, but not near as much as this one.
Well, I mean, it has to, since the next Doctor Strange movie is called The Multiverse of Madness, right? Or something
right,
like that.
and it's the same director.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, anyway, there's a lot of, Alan, anything else that stuck out that was you really liked or really didn't like or would like to see?
So I really like Owen Wilson's portrayal of Mobius. I think he's doing a spectacular job. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him in this last episode. I feel like we're only barely scratching the surface of that character. I'm looking forward to finding out more about him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole thing affects Loki long term. Like is he going to be part of the TVA moving forward, or is he going to get back to being a scourge to Thor? I mean, what's his outcome in all of this? I have no guesses right now.
Well, he dies in the sacred timeline, so we can't really go back to that.
Yeah.
Why are we limited to those rules if they're going to attack the
Well, if they
people
blow
who,
it up, yeah, I mean, if it gets
yeah.
which
And they're clearly
like it
going.
is.
There's something going to go wrong with it, because of the Doctor Strange movie title. At the very least, we know that it's not going to be status quo moving forward.
Well, and maybe that's what the What If cartoons are going to be all tied into. I mean, I would assume they'll be tied into
Sure.
that as well.
Could be.
Do you guys think that any of the Scarlet Witch movie coming out, do you think it will have any, or is it all pre this?
I don't know.
You talking Black Widow?
Black Widow, I'm sorry.
Oh, Black Widow.
Yeah, I meant Black Widow.
Isn't it all pre this?
Yeah. My understanding is the Black Widow movie takes place before the events of Endgame, possibly even before the events of Infinity War. But
she does.
She does, but I have a theory. My theory is one of two things is going to happen in the Black Widow movie. Either we're going to see the blonde Black Widow emerge out of the movie, because that's from the comics, or and there's like a partner or something in the
is
movie
that White Canary and Black Canary?
And then the other thing that I think is possible is maybe as a result of this multiverse idea, they'll pull Black Widow back into the Marvel universe from a different
some type
time
of
stream.
yeah.
So you guys already talked about the tongue-in-cheek joke about the TVA's creation. That sounds like something Chip would have brought up.
No, further.
That he. So the TVA was created by Walt Simonson, who based Mobius on one of the editors at Marvel, because that editor was like a continuity nerd or whatever and wanted to like retain control of the timeline in the Marvel comics.
Really?
So the whole thing is like literally a joke Simonson was concocting. And in the comic,
cool.
the character Mobius looks exactly like the editor I'm referring to.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Forever immortalized. Very cool.
And that's why he has the mustache, by the way. That's why.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he probably got pulled from the 90s because of some of the references he's made. I think that's what happened.
That would line up with when Walt Simonson created it. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in 1991. That's when this happened.
Even more so. Then they've done a little of that with some of the Easter eggs that have matched up to when things were created or those type of things.
5 minutes until launch.
We have to get on that arc and make sure it takes off.
How?
We go round.
So filling in for Chip today is Alan O.W. Barnes. And Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right. So I'm a comic book artist and an art professor at Johnson University in Knoxville, Tennessee. My last comic that came out was the first volume of something I'm calling the Crow Chronicles, Black Land. It's basically a retelling of the classic monster stories if they were all teenagers living in the Mississippi Delta. And the first story is a mummy story. And I'm about to start working on the follow-up, which is a werewolf story. And I'll be doing like a very short documentary series about its creation.
Wow, can't wait to see that. That sounds like awesome.
Thank you.
If I was a better friend, I would have actually had that here.
That's okay, man. Don't split it.
Do we trust each other?
We do, and you can.
Good. Because this is gonna suck.